Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel Criminology and Forensic Science, where science meets crime. In today's video, we are going to learn a classic but crucial concept in criminology, that is Anomie Theory, developed by the famous French sociologist Émile Durkheim. This theory helps us understand why people sometimes feel lost, disconnected, or even driven to commit crimes, not because they are bad people, but because society itself fails to guide them. We are going to explain what anomie means, where the idea comes from, how it relates to crime, and finally we'll go over real life examples that connect the theory to our everyday world. Let's get started. The word anomie comes from the Greek, a meaning without, and nomos meaning law or norm. So literally it means without norms or normlessness. But in sociology it has a much deeper meaning. Émile Durkheim introduced the concept in his 1897 book Suicide, where he tried to understand why some people felt so disconnected from society that they would take their own lives. For Durkheim, anomie is a condition in society where norms, the shared rules and values that guide our behavior, start to break down. This usually happens during times of rapid social or economic change, like a sudden recession, industrialization war, or even a major cultural shift. In these periods, the old rules no longer apply and the new ones haven't yet formed, leaving people in a sort of moral vacuum. In a stable society, people know what's expected of them, how to behave, what goals to pursue, what success looks like. But once society is in flux, people may feel uncertain, frustrated, and disconnected from the social fabric. They no longer feel like they belong. According to Durkheim, this state of confusion and instability can lead to deviant behavior, including crime. So, anomie is not just about lawlessness or chaos in the streets. It's a deeper internal crisis where people feel that the rules no longer make sense. Society stops giving them direction. Imagine a compass suddenly spinning with no north. That's how anomie feels at a social level. To really appreciate anomie theory, we need to understand where Durkheim was coming from. He lived in a time of massive change, the late 19th century, during the Industrial Revolution. People were moving from small rural communities into growing, chaotic cities. Old traditions were fading, religious authority was declining, and capitalism was creating new classes and inequalities. Durkheim saw that with all this change, people no longer felt anchored in traditional societies. People's lives were deeply structured by family, religion, and community. These institutions provided clear moral guidance, but in modern industrial societies, those bonds began to weaken. People became more individualistic and isolated, and the result was anomie. In his study of suicide, Durkheim found that suicide rates actually increased in societies undergoing major change, even if those changes were positive, like economic growth. Why? Because people's expectations would rise, but society didn't always equip them to handle that freedom. Without norms to regulate desires and behavior, people could become overwhelmed, dissatisfied, and eventually detached. So, Durkheim's idea was this: crime, suicide, and other forms of deviance often arise not because of personal failure, but because society fails to give people the structure they need. When people lose their moral compass because society itself is shifting, they are more likely to break the rules or feel lost altogether. Let's now focus on how anomie leads to crime. According to Durkheim, crime is a normal and even necessary part of society. That might sound shocking, but he believed that crime helps clarify social norms. When people break rules, it forces society to reaffirm or rethink those rules. However, in a state of anomie, the level of crime can go beyond what is functional. When people no longer know what is right or wrong, when goals become unclear or unachievable, some individuals turn to deviant behavior, not because they are inherent criminal, but because they no longer feel bound by societal expectations. For example, if someone loses their job during an economic crisis and society offers no support, no clear path forward, that person might resort to illegal activities to survive or regain a sense of control. It's not necessarily about greed or evil, it's about reacting to a world that feels chaotic and indifferent. Durkheim also argued that when individuals' desires go unchecked, crime can increase. In modern capitalist societies, people are constantly pushed to want more wealth, more success, more status. But without moral limits, those desires can become infinite. Anomie occurs when social norms are too weak to regulate ambition and people do whatever it takes, including breaking the law, to fulfill their desires. Now let's ground this theory in the real world with some concrete example. A more recent example can be found in post-pandemic societies. After COVID-19, many people experienced job loss, isolation, and mental health issues. Social routines disappeared, expectations changed overnight, and uncertainty became the norm. This widespread disruption of norms created, you guessed it, a state of anomie for many. In some places, there was an increase in crime, drug use, and antisocial behavior as people struggled to reorient themselves. Durkheim's anomie theory might be over a century old, but it's more relevant today than ever. In a world that's changing faster than we can keep up with social media, economic instability, political polarization, and climate anxiety, many people feel confused, overwhelmed, and uncertain about their place in society. Durkheim reminds us that crime and deviance are often symptoms of deeper social problems. When people feel disconnected from their community, when traditional norms vanish without being replaced, and when society fails to provide clear expectations or moral support, crime becomes more likely. Rather than blaming individuals, anomie theory encourages us to look at the structure of society. What are we asking of people? Are we giving them the tools to succeed? Are we creating a sense of belonging? Or are we leaving them in moral and emotional chaos? So, next time you hear about rising crime rates or social unrest, ask yourself, is this just about bad behavior? Or is it a sign that society itself is in a state of anomie? If you found this explanation helpful, make sure to give the video a like, subscribe to criminology and forensic science and drop a comment below with your thoughts on anomie theory. Do you think it explains what's happening in today's world? Thanks for watching, and remember, understanding society is the first step towards changing it.